The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, based in Washington, D.C., has predicted that a Brexit vote, it did last year, would hit the UK economy. Well, that didn't quite happen last year, but today it came to London to deliver its verdict for 2017 and its forecast for the year ahead as Britain extricates itself from the European Union. This is what the organisation's managing director, Christine Lagarde, had to say at the Treasury earlier this morning.
Now, in this country, the United Kingdom, since the start of this year, growth has slowed notably. The significant depreciation of the sterling that followed the referendum has pushed inflation over 3%, squeezing real incomes and private consumption. Companies are also delaying some investment decisions until they have greater clarity about post-Brexit trade rules in particular. Our forecast for growth in 2017, this year, is 1.6%, down from 1.8% in 2016.
So that's the boss of the IMF in London at the Treasury there to deliver her verdict on the economy this year and what might happen next year. So Claire Perry, another major economic forecaster, another growth downgrade for the British economy.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't think anyone is surprised because we always knew that the headwinds of inflation, the adjustment that we've seen, would be a bit of a drag on the original forecast. But I'm focused, Andrew, on things like the Forbes survey that yesterday said Britain was the best place in the world to do business. The very first time we've achieved that rank. I've looked at the economic data, what's actually going on underlying the headlines, and business confidence is still strong. And this is why we've got to get through this period of uncertainty and get the shape of the deal with Europe as quickly as possible.
But why is Britain now in the slow lane of growth?
Well, because we've had two things. We've had concern over people feeling a little bit nervous about the future. Consumption is slowing down. We've seen inflation. Yeah, we've seen inflation ticking up.
Down? Are we in the slow lane, in your view, because of Brexit?
I think we are in the slow. Well, I think growth has slowed because of the period of uncertainty around our exit from the EU, which we thought would happen. But what is striking, though, is if you dig behind this in terms of the fundamentals, we have a really strong economy. We'll get through this period of uncertainty and we will power ahead.
Do you believe the IMF forecast?
Well, I believe them more than I believe the Chancellor's forecast.
But the Chancellor doesn't make forecasts.
Well,
exactly.
He tries to put a good gloss on things in his
But budgets, these are the same as the Independent Office of Budget Responsibilities forecasts,
well, it's all
which are not the Chancellor's forecast.
No, they're all heading in the same direction, aren't they? Which is downwards, which is obviously a great regret. And I think the main point is that the IMF has said that we need certainty and clarity moving forward to make those businesses feel confident to make the investment decisions,
exactly.
Which is why we need this transitional deal as soon as possible.
The IMF told us before the referendum in the summer of 2016 that if we voted to leave, there would be a major slowdown in growth, an immediate slowdown in growth of several percentage points. It was wrong, wasn't it?
Yes, I think that's indisputable, isn't it? But
so why should it be right about next year, when it says we're going to be in slow growth as well?
Well, it's the best information that we've got at the moment, and you can actually listen to what businesses are saying. Vauxhall's in my constituency, for example, the PSA group, which now own it, have said that they are not in a position to make any decisions on future investment in the plants.
What about the Forbes magazine study that the Minister referred to, which is a global study saying Britain will be the best place to do business in the world next year?
Well, that might be next year, but obviously
we're almost there.
But what happens after that in terms of our leaving the EU?
Well, if we even were sure what was going to happen next year, we could take some comfort from that.
Well, I don't think anyone can make predictions about anything.
I'm not even sure what happened in the last 6 months.
But I think this is, I mean, I do believe experts often, but I think what was very good about the post-Brexit referendum was that we had a major intervention from the Bank of England, who pumped billions of pounds into the economy. Consumer confidence held up. That's great. Next year, the business fundamentals are all in place. We've got the fillip of the royal wedding. I think, and as Justin says...
So the royal wedding's going to come to your aid?
We always... Well, no, the royal wedding is nothing to do with politics, but,
They haven't on the same day as the FA Cup. Some people may not notice.
That's two good things to celebrate, Andrew. Come on, cheer up for Christmas.
Depends whose team's in the
But,
final.
you know,
doesn't
but
it?
Justin's constituency has an unbelievably important part of the car industry in it, and we know from talking in our department that this is why we've got to get the shape of the deal and we've got to get on with it. And thank goodness we had the breakthrough we needed in the last few days from the Prime Minister in terms of the next stage.
You said that the fundamentals of the economy were strong.
Yes.
They're not strong if you're poor in this country, though, are you?
I completely disagree with you.
Have you seen the latest ONS
On what?
independent figures
On...
living standards?
Well, two things.
Have you seen them?
I have, in terms of the fact that that wages are still, in some cases, below where they were.
No, that's
that
not
one?
what the latest ones tell
Right.
you. The latest ones tell you that if you're a household in the lowest income bracket, your living standard has suffered more than any other. If you're in the lowest, the people who need the most help are actually the ones suffering most because of how you spend your money. You spend more on food, you spend more on energy if you're in a poor household. As a percentage of your income, you have seen a 36% rise in prices over the past 6 or 7 years.
And that's why the relentless focus on helping people, the national living wage, which, you know, I still think has been a major increase, given increase in incomes in terms of those employment, freezing fuel duty, delivering free childcare. We have to keep making sure that as we move forward...
So the more you look at them, the poorer they get.
No, the more you create good, highly paid, productive jobs like the ones in the car plants in Justin's constituency, the more that you get people who have been languishing on incomes that have been too low for a long time into a better position. You have to fix the fundamentals of the economy,
Right, but you've been in power since 2010.
Yeah, and we've also
the figures show that if you're in the lowest bracket of income as a household, you have suffered more than any other bracket.
And
when will the poorest begin to feel any relief? At the moment, for 10 years now, prices of things they buy have been rising much more quickly than their incomes, despite your living wage and despite taking people out of tax.
Yes, the lowest
When can they expect relief?
Well, two things. So first of all, as we know, when we came into office in 2010, we were dealing with the biggest financial crisis that we had seen in peacetime. We had a deficit that was the biggest in the developed world. It's not right to burden... I mean, look, I know this is
Mr.
old
Osborne
news.
said we were all in it together.
And we have
but
all
it
been
turns
in it.
out that it's the poorest that are in it most of all.
We have had to pay off that deficit, which is now down by more than 2/3. We've worked on protecting those on the lowest income. As you pointed out, we've taken 3 million people out of tax completely.
But overall, they're still worse
And this is
off.
why there's still more to do. And as a country, which is why the whole industrial strategy is so important, we've got to keep investing in the highly productive industries, creating those jobs right across the UK, not just in London and the South East.
What one thing would Labour do to help the plight of the poor here?
Well, we'd raise the minimum wage to £10 an hour, and I think that would have a dramatic effect almost immediately. We know from the...
But it's going to be about £9.50, so it's
Yeah, we're almost there.
You're almost there.
We're inching there very slowly at the moment. We would reverse some of
These people have had their income squeezed for
cuts.
10 years, and all you can offer is a marginal rise in the living wage. Some of them, by the way, won't even be on the living wage.
Well, what we've got to look at is the overall picture that the government are facing us with at the moment, which is another decade, really, of wage stagnation. Too much employment at the moment is based in insecure, low-paid, part-time employment, which is why so many people are struggling. We need to get out of that cycle. We need to create high-paid, sustainable jobs.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the aspiration, but it's not a policy.
No, but we've got to do it, Andrew. We've got to, then this is why the industrial strategy, the biggest increases in businesses like Justin's for generations. This is how you give people long-term routes out of low income.
Very well. I'm sure the poor will be reassured by both of you. Yesterday's meeting of